Beyond the Red House, where we turn trauma into triumph and pain into purpose. I'm Kayla Valterno, author of I Was Once the Girl in the Red House, and I believe in the power of authentic healing stories. This is a space where your voice matters, your story heals, and your journey inspires others to break their own cycles. Whether you're just beginning your healing or years into building your new life, you belong here. Let's explore what it means to move beyond the red houses that hurt us and build the lives we actually deserve. Welcome back to Beyond the Red House. I'm Kayla, and this week I want to talk about something that many people, including myself, have done to protect ourselves, and that is putting up imaginary walls. It's still something I personally struggle with, trying to balance protecting yourself while also letting others in. And I don't want to sit here and act like I have it all figured out, because I don't. That's something I work on every single day. For a very long time, I've built up these walls and didn't let anyone in. I would push every single person away, and I would keep them at arm's distance. When people hurt you constantly, especially the people that were supposed to protect you, it's hard to know who to trust. If you've built up these walls, you understand that fear of letting anyone in. You know what it's like to feel safer alone than vulnerable with someone else. You know what it's like to have someone reach out with kindness, and your first instinct is to run away because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. But here's the question I've been asking myself lately. Are those walls keeping me safe, or are they keeping me from healing? And that's a hard question to sit with, because for so long, those walls, they were keeping me safe. They were necessary. They were survival. I was actually reading a poem the other day about building up these walls, and it really hit me. It talked about how we built them brick by brick, pain by pain, thinking that we're protecting ourselves, but we realize we built a prison instead of a fortress. And then to go along with that, I actually was listening to a Simple Plan song that I love called Untitled, How Could This Happen to Me? It's one that just gets into that feelings of hurt and wondering, how did this happen to me? It's the raw emotion of looking at your life and thinking, how did I become the person who can't trust anyone? It made me think of how we build these walls. Every single time someone lets us down, each time we're betrayed or dismissed or made to feel small, we add another layer of protection. At first, those walls were necessary. They felt like survival, and honestly, sometimes they are, especially when you're in an unsafe situation or when you're healing from fresh wounds. Those walls are exactly what you might need. I built my first walls up as a child. I had to. When you grow up in a home where you never know which version of the parent you're going to get today, will they be happy? Will they be angry? Are they going to tear you down? I had to learn to protect myself. I learned how to be quiet, small, hide behind those walls. Maybe I wouldn't be a target that day. As I got older, those walls got thicker and taller and more reinforced, because it wasn't just my mother anymore who hurt me. It was other people too. Friends betraying my trust. People who I thought cared about me, but it turned out they only cared about what I could do for them. Every single hurt was another brick, another layer of concrete. Another reinforcement that told me, see, this is why you shouldn't let people in. You can't trust anyone. But here's what I also learned. There comes a point where those walls that once protected you, they start to isolate you. There comes a point where you're not just good at keeping out the people who might hurt you, you're keeping everyone out. The good ones, the safe ones, the people who might actually show up for you. I remember being so closed off that people who genuinely cared about me couldn't get through. I would sabotage friendships before they could hurt me. I would push people away the second I felt them getting too close, too vulnerable, too seen. Because being seen terrified me. Because when you grow up in an environment where being seen meant being criticized, where vulnerability was weaponized against you, you learn to hide. You learn to make yourself small. You learned that the safest place was behind those walls, where no one can hurt you. I would do this thing where I'd test people. I didn't even realize what I was doing at first. I would push them away or act cold or distant, waiting to see if they would leave, because in my mind, everyone leaves. So I might as well have sped up the process and saved myself some of that heartache. But you know what happened? People did leave, not simply because they didn't care, but because I made it impossible for them to stay, for them to get close to me, for them to see the real me. And then, of course, I'd use that as proof. See, I was right. People always leave. I can't trust anyone. But the truth is, I was creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was so convinced people would hurt me that I would hurt them first. I pushed them away before they could reject me. I rejected connection before connection could reject me. And that's the painful truth about the walls. They don't discriminate. They keep everyone out, the good and the bad. I think about all those friendships I could have had, the ones I sabotaged, and all the people who tried to be there for me, who tried to show love, and I just couldn't receive it. I couldn't let it in. Because when you've been hurt the way I've been hurt, love feels dangerous, kindness feels suspicious, and when people show up for you, your first thought isn't how nice, it was what they want from me. I've had people in my life who were so kind, patient, and consistent, and it terrified me. I kept waiting for them to change, kept waiting for them to show me who they really were, waiting for that mask to slip, of course, for them to become like everyone else who's ever hurt me. But they didn't. They kept showing up, and I didn't know what to do with that because it didn't fit my narrative. It didn't fit the story I'd been telling myself about people and trust and safety. So instead of accepting that maybe, just maybe, this person was actually safe, I would find reasons to push them away. I would convince myself that they had ulterior motives. But looking back now, I see how much pain I caused myself by doing that. How many good people I've pushed away. How many connections I've denied myself. But I also understand why I did it. Because the alternative of trusting someone and getting hurt again, it felt too risky. It felt too much. So how do you find that balance? How do you protect yourself without isolating yourself? Yes, I'm still figuring it out, but here's what I learned so far. Not everyone deserves access to you, and that's okay. You don't have to let everyone in. You don't owe your vulnerability, your story, your trust. Some people have proven that they can't be trusted. And it's completely valid to keep your walls up with those people. But there are people in my life who I will never let back in. People who've had their chances and they've blown it. People who've shown me exactly who they are. And I believe them. And I don't feel bad about that anymore. For a long time, I felt guilty about it. I felt like I had to give people second and third chances. It felt like I was mean or holding a grudge if I didn't. But protecting yourself from people who've hurt you isn't holding a grudge. It's honoring yourself. It's saying, my peace matters more than your access to me. And of course, there are people who've earned that trust. People who've shown up consistently. People who've proven that they're safe. And those people, they deserve the chance to know the real you. The goal is not to tear those walls down. It's to build a door. A door you can open when someone safe is standing on the other side. A door you can close when you need to protect your peace. And a door with a lock that only you can control. I love this analogy because it's not about being completely open and vulnerable with everyone. That's not safe, and you know that. It's not healthy. But it's also not shutting everyone out forever. It's about having a door that you control. You decide who comes in. You decide when it opens and when it closes, because only you have the key. I used to think that letting people in meant I was being weak. That needing support meant I hadn't healed enough. That if I was truly strong, I could do this all on my own. I wore my independence like an armor. I would say things like, I don't need anyone, I'm fine on my own. And I believed it. I really did. But it's not strength. That's just loneliness, disguised as independence. Real strength is recognizing that you needed connection, and you need connection. Real strength is being brave enough to let someone see you, flaws, scars, walls and all, and trusting that they won't use it against you. And sometimes you'll let the wrong person in, and sometimes you'll get hurt again, but that's the risk of being somewhat open and choosing connection over isolation. I won't lie to you and say it hasn't happened to me since I started working on this. I let people in who've turned out to be not so safe. And I've shared parts of my story with people who didn't handle it with care. And of course it hurt. I mean, I have a book out. Everyone could read, knows what happened. So vulnerability is no longer scary to me. But every time it did happen, there was that voice in my head that said, see, this is why you don't let people in. This is why you should keep up your walls. But I've been fighting that voice. I've been saying, because people who haven't been safe, there are people who have been. People who've been so kind and loving about my story. And so many more people shown up for me than I ever could have imagined with my book and telling me how much my story has helped them and meant to them. And so many people who have been in my life that I never thought would care. And it showed me that there are some good people. But I do promise you, the alternative to staying behind those walls forever is so much lonelier. I think about who I was before I started all this healing. Before I let people in, I was so isolated, so alone. Even if I was surrounded by people, I felt completely alone because no one really knew who I was. They didn't know the real me. Having surface level friendships, people you could laugh with or grab coffee with and talk about little stuff, celebrity gossip, things like that. But no one who knew the real me. No one who knew my story, no one I can call at 2 a.m. when I was struggling. And I told myself that was fine. I told myself I didn't need deep connections, that people didn't need to get me. But I was lying to myself. Because humans aren't meant to be alone. We are not meant to carry everything by ourselves. We're wired for connection, for community, being seen, known, and loved. And we deny ourselves that. When we deny ourselves that, we're denying ourselves of the most healing things available to us. And it's okay to have only a few people that truly let in. I don't have more than a few people that have been very much let in to my inner circle and inner working of my life. I have the bestest friend that I could ever ask for, who I know, even though we are long distance, that if I am struggling hard, I could talk to her and she will listen. I have the best sister-in-law that will absolutely drop everything to call me if I need her to. I have an amazing husband that I've pushed away for so long when we were dating, and he never left. He always told me, I'm here. You can't push me away. And I think that was the turning point for me, is finally having someone who saw what I was trying to do, saw that I was thinking, okay, before they hurt me, I need to let go. And he never did. So there are people out there that you could trust. I have more people than I just talked about, but I don't want to call everybody out. But I promise you, it is so much lonelier behind those walls than to let a few people in. You don't have to let everyone in. It doesn't have to be everyone at work or your kids, friends, parents. People you feel could earn your trust, and you don't have to tell them everything about you at once. Just little hints of who you are. I'm going to go back to that simple plan line. How could this happen to me? And that answer is because someone hurt you. Because you had to protect yourself. Because survival mode became your default setting. But you're not surviving anymore. You're healing. And healing means learning that not everyone is going to hurt you. It means recognizing the difference between people who've earned your trust and people who haven't. And it means slowly, carefully letting the right people in. And I want to be clear about something. This doesn't mean you have to forgive people who have hurt you or give them another chance, because that's absolutely not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you give them that chance because you know who they are. They're going to not change. They're going to be that same person that could hurt you again. It doesn't mean to lower your boundaries or accept less than you deserve, because you deserve so much better than that. What it means is, don't let those people who hurt you in the past steal your ability to make real connections, make real friends, find the love of your life. There are good people out there. Yes, it's so hard to find good people. But it's worth the chance to try. My mother does not get to dictate how I show up in all my other relationships. She doesn't get to take away my capacity for connection just because she couldn't show up for me the way I needed. That would be giving her too much power. And I'm done giving her any power over my life. I no longer will let her steal anything from me ever again. But here is what I'm working on. Being honest about my walls. I tell the people I trust and I'm trying to let in more. that I do have these walls. I can't pretend that they don't exist, or that they're not real, or that I'm just fine all the time. I'm starting to tell the safe people, hey, I have a hard time letting people in. I'm working on it, but I need you to be patient with me. And you know what? The right people understand. They don't take it personally. They give you space while still showing up. It's really hard for me to let many people in. It has taken me years before I let in people. Like I said before about my sister-in-law, she is one of my bestest friends now, and it took me a long time to let her in. But she is one of the best people I've ever met. And I can't imagine if I just pushed her away completely, I wouldn't have that. You don't want to not let people in. And I personally need to do better about letting other people in my life in that I know are probably listening, going, wait, hold on, what about me? Yes, I know I need to do better. I'm trying. This is me trying. There's a difference between a boundary and your wall. So this is a big one. A boundary says, I'm needed to feel safe in this relationship. But a wall says, I can't let you in at all. Boundaries are healthy. They're necessary. Boundaries are what protect you while still allowing connection. Walls, when they're with everyone, they keep you isolated. For example, maybe a boundary could be, I'm not ready to talk about my childhood yet, but I'd love to share other parts of my life with you. That's healthy. That's protecting yourself while still staying open to connection. A wall would be, I'm not talking about anything personal ever again. Just keeping things surface level forever. The weather, the news. That's a protection, but that's isolation. I'm learning to use boundaries instead of walls. To say I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm comfortable talking about this instead. To give people a roadmap of how to have a relationship with me without shutting them out completely. And I've learned that people knowing my story now, again, do not recommend everyone write a book because it is very vulnerable and the hardest thing I've ever done. But for me personally, people knowing my story, they understand me better. They understand that I am the way I am for a reason. But I am still changing and developing and growing. And I think that's the thing about healing and why I never say I'm completely healed, because you heal one part of you and you find another that needs to be worked on. And that will be probably a forever thing. And that's okay. I want you to practice vulnerability in small dosages. You don't have to share everything out at once, like I did. I want you to test the water, share something small, and see how a person responds. Do they respect it? Do they use it against you? Or do they show up with empathy? That will tell you if they're safe or not. It's kind of like testing the pool temperature with your toes to make sure the pool is not too cold before you try to go in. You don't have to dive in deep of your vulnerability. You could start and see if the water's warm enough first. Maybe you share something small about your day, about how you're feeling, if you're having a struggle, and watch how they explain. Do they listen? Do they validate? Do they try to fix you? Or do they just sit with you? The right people will show through their actions that they're safe. And then you can share a little more if you feel comfortable. Eventually, you'll realize you've let them in and it didn't destroy you. And I want you to forgive yourself when you slip back, because some days that old instinct will always kick in. It will push them away before. I want to acknowledge how exhausting this work is, the healing aspect. Learning how to let people in with every fiber of your being is telling you to stay closed off, to just not deal with it. It takes so much energy, so much intention, and so much courage. Some days I'm just very tired. Tired of fighting my own instincts. Tired of having to remind myself that not everyone's going to hurt me. Tired of doing the mental work of distinguishing hurt past versus present reality. In those days, it's okay to rest. It's okay to not push yourself. It's okay to say, you know what, today the walls are up, and that's fine. It's not about forcing yourself to be vulnerable every single day. It's about slowly, over time, learning that connection is possible. That there are people who are safe. That you are worthy of being known and loved. I want you to know that if you are someone who has the walls up, you're not broken. You're not damaged beyond repair. You built those walls for a reason, and they served you when you needed them. But you don't need to live behind them forever. There are people out there who are safe, who will honor your story, will show up for you without expecting you to be perfect or fully healed. The hardest part is to take that risk. And I know it's scary, and it feels like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, and someone's asking you to bungee jump without knowing if something's there to catch you. There are people who will catch you, who will hold space for you while you heal, who will be patient with you while you figure out how to build that door. So, here's what I want you to ask yourself today. Who in your life has earned the right to come through that door? Maybe it's a friend who's been there for everything. Maybe it's a therapist, a support group, or even just one person who makes you feel seen and safe. Whoever it is, consider letting them in just a little. You don't have to tear down the wall completely. Just crack the door open a little bit. Start small. Share something that feels manageable. See how they respond. Then decide if you want to share a little more. Because connection, unfortunately, it's a part of healing. And you deserve to have people in your life who truly know you and care about you. You don't have to do this alone anymore. And I know that's so hard to believe because you've been doing this alone for as long as you can and as long as you remember. But I promise you there is another way. A way where you can feel protected and connected, where you could still have boundaries, where you can keep yourself safe while still letting the right people in. It's not going to happen overnight, of course. It's taken years and I'm still working on it. But every time I let someone safe in, every time I choose vulnerability over isolation, every time I open that door just a crack, I'm reminded that I'm not meant to live behind these walls forever. And neither are you. And before I go, I want to leave you with this. Your walls don't make you broken. They make you a survivor. They show that you are smart enough, strong enough, brave enough to protect yourself when you needed to. But surviving and thriving are very two different things. Surviving is keeping the walls up forever. Thriving is learning when it's safe to let them down. You've survived. Now it's time to thrive. And that means taking a risk, opening that door, letting the right people in, not everyone. But it also means believing and loving yourself enough to know that you're worthy of connection, love, being fully known, because you are. You absolutely are. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Just remember, you're not alone in this. Even when the walls are up, even when you feel isolated, even when it feels like no one could possibly understand, you're not alone. I see you, I understand you, and I am cheering you on every step of the way. Take care of yourself. Your healing matters. Your story matters. And you matter. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Red House. If you have a story to share or want to connect, email me at hello@kaylavalterno.com. Visit kaylavalterno.com for my book and resources to support your healing journey. Everything will be in the show notes. Keep building beyond whatever tried to break you. You are stronger than you know. This is Beyond the Red House.